Hello again to all my food warriors. Welcome back to the channel. Since everybody seems to be sick these days, today we are making an absolutely phenomenal chicken and turkey stock. And more than that, we are making a roasted chicken and turkey stock. So normally what I do every time we're making a roast dinner, if we're having turkey, chicken, duck, whatever the case is, and we get down to the carcass of the animal, if I don't have enough to make stock, I just wrap it up, throw it in the freezer until I have enough bones to make stock. This time around, I bought an extra turkey at Christmas. I butchered it up because over the course of the year, it's somewhat difficult to find turkey. So what I do is I take the breasts off, take the legs off, and then I have essentially the wings, the carcass, the neck, and I use those to make my stock. And on top of that, I also have here 3 chicken carcasses. We made a batch of fried chicken. If you'd like to see how we make Coach Joe's legendary fried chicken, put it down in the comments and we'll do that. So what I've done here is I've basically taken my carcasses of my turkey and my chicken, and I've just roasted these off in a 450 degree oven for about 45 minutes. The reason why we roast this off is we get a much deeper flavor and color by roasting off the bones. If these were just, you could make a stock with just essentially unroasted bones, but I find the flavor is much better, much deeper by roasting the bones, and so we take that extra step to do that. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good commercially available stocks on the market, but there's nothing quite like making your own. And if we have these carcasses available, these have great currency in terms of converting these carcasses into a good homemade stock. So what we're going to start out with is our big stock pot. This is a 14-liter pot. 14 liters is somewhere 3.6, maybe 3.7 gallons. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our carcasses. These are right out of the oven, so they're still very, very hot. And we're going to get these right into our pot. Now, the amount of meat and bones that I have here is ultimately dependent on the size of the pot that I'm using. Obviously, if I had a smaller pot, I wouldn't have nearly so many bones, but this is a big pot, and this is just the amount that I'm going to be making today. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of these guys right into my pot. We'll start with the wings. We'll get the neck of the turkey here. Get this guy in there. We will get the carcass. This guy broke in half, not a problem. We'll just throw this guy in here. There we are. And then we've got our 3 chicken carcasses. Now what I want to do here is I want my meat to usually occupy about 2/3 of my pot. And really, that's about what I have here. Because I do want to leave room for vegetables and other aromatics that I'm going to be adding in a little bit later on. What I'm also going to do here is I'm going to pour off all of the juice and all of the fat from the sheet pan. I'm not concerned about the amount of fat that's here because we are going to get rid of this a little bit later. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour this off. There's a lot of good flavor in there at the moment. And we are going to skim all of this stuff off later. We're going to remove the fat. Once this cools, the fat will cool into one big puck, and we will get that removed in a couple of days. So I've got everything here in my pot. I'm going to fill this up about a couple of inches above the level of the bones with good cold water. If you live in a place or part of the country where tap water is not of great quality, or it doesn't quite taste as it should, I would strongly recommend using a good filtered water or even spring water for this recipe. We want our stock to be, all that it can be, and so we don't want the water to be taken away from that. We want to fill this pot, like I said, a couple inches above the level of the bones with good cold water, and then get that on the burner and let that come up to temperature. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow that to come up to temperature maybe 20-30 minutes, just under the boil, and so I will see you in about that time. All right, we were about a half hour in, and if you're anything like me, you're going to start to see some of this white foamy stuff that's starting to collect at the top of the soup. Completely normal, completely expected. These are essentially proteins that coagulate during cooking. These are, essentially some people call them impurities. They float to the top. Essentially what these do is they make our stock bitter and they make our stock cloudy. So we don't want those in there. We want to fish that out. So our stock right now is just under the boil. We're about a half an hour in. The reason why I haven't put any vegetables in yet is because I want to do away with all of this foam or this scum that they call it. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to shuffle it towards one part of my pot here, and I'm just going to collect it and put it into a ramekin. That's it. No harm, no foul. We don't want to leave that in there because, like I said, it will make your stock cloudy and it will make your stock a little bit bitter. And so we want the stock to be all that it can be. And so all we're going to do is we're just going to, with a little bit of current, allow this to collect on one side of the pot, and then very gently just remove it. That's it. So I don't add my vegetables in yet because I'm going to, for the first hour, just allow the meat and the bones to sit here and just bubble away. And once I have all of this scum collected and completely out of my stock, we're not going to get any more of that from the meat, so there's only so much that's going to come out of there. Once we have that removed, then we can add in our vegetables. Now, the difference between a broth and a stock: a broth is really made from meat, vegetables, and other spices and seasonings. A stock is really made from bones. There could be some meat in there as well, but it's bones and vegetables and spices and seasonings. So what we are doing here is we are making a stock. Stocks are a little bit more intense in terms of flavor, a little bit more intense in terms of color, and we're going to get more intensity of flavor and color because we roasted our bones in the beginning, and there's really no substitute for that. So we're just going to let this bubble away for about another half hour, completely remove all of that foam that starts to develop on top. I will see you in an hour with our vegetables and our seasonings. All right, we are back. We were about an hour in, so we've got about another 3 hours to go before our stock is beautifully done. So now it's time to add all of our vegetables, our seasonings, our aromatics. We've taken all of that foam, all of those protein impurities that have coagulated and formed at the top of our stock. We've skimmed those off, so our stock is beautifully clear. And now we're going to get right into our vegetables and our herbs and our seasonings. So what I have here, first things first, I have just a handful of parsley that I've just run under some cold water just to rinse off. I've got 5 or 6 garlic cloves that I'm just going to add whole and in the paper. Just going to add that here. We've got some trimmings from some fennel that we had earlier in the week. These are just the outer leaves that I've trimmed off, given a wash, threw them in the fridge, knew I was making stock this weekend, so we're going to throw these in as well. We've got some beautiful fresh vegetables here. I've got a half dozen stalks of celery. We're just going to cut these right in half, and we're just going to put these off to the side. I've got 3 large carrots. All we're going to do with these guys is just cut them right down the middle, and then maybe we'll cut them in half. There we are. Nothing fussy. All we want is the flavor to come out of these vegetables and to season our stock, and so we can cut this stuff up pretty rough. There we are. And we'll put this off to the side. So we've got, there we are, 3 nice big chunky carrots. I've got 3 white onions here as well. These are medium-sized white onions. We don't have to peel these all the way down right to the white. We can leave a little bit of that amber skin on there as well. We're not going to eat these. They're just for flavoring. So all we're going to do, again, cut these in 4. Leave these here on our board. There we are. And then we've got one more vegetable. This is one big leek that I've made sure that I've washed thoroughly. I've split it down a couple of times. I've run some cold water through it just to get any of that sandy grit out. And again, we're just going to cut this into, this is already cut in 4, so we're just going to cut this into about 4-inch lengths. And you know what, we'll get this guy right down to the end. There we are. So here is all of our veg. It's going to be going in our pot. This is going to season our stock absolutely beautifully. We've got here in our bowl 3 tablespoons of whole black peppercorns, 2 tablespoons of whole allspice berries, and 1 tablespoon of dry cloves. This is going to be the base of our aromatics. We've got 2 tablespoons of dry thyme. If I had fresh thyme, a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme would do the trick. And then I've got, I'd say probably 7 or 8 good-sized bay leaves. This is all going into my pot, and this is going to continue to simmer and bubble away just under the boil for the next 3 hours. And so I will get all this into my pot, and I will see you in 3 hours' time. And we are back, and just like clockwork, 4 hours in, our soup is done. I just gave this a taste. It is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The only thing I did after adding all of my vegetables and my aromatics, a couple of pinches of salt, and that's it. I don't want to oversalt my soup in the event that I'm using this for gravy or some application where I need to reduce it, it's not going to taste like a salt lick because there's all that much salt in there. And so if I need to augment the seasoning at the time that I'm using it, a little bit of extra salt, you can always add, but we really can't take away. Now, the reason why I make this, there's really nothing like homemade, like a good homemade stock. The depth of flavor, the intensity of flavor, the diversity of flavor with all the different aromatics, all the different vegetables, the beautifully roasted meat, and the beautifully roasted bones in this case, absolutely fantastic. This is why restaurant food always tastes just a little bit different and usually just a little bit better than home cooked food is, because in good restaurants they don't cut corners, and this is an example where we do not cut corners. And so all we're going to do now is we're going to strain this out, we're going to let it cool down, we're going to throw it in the fridge for a couple of days, and then we're going to come back to this and we're going to defat our stock. Now this is one of my absolute favorite, I wouldn't even call it a kitchen gadget. This is a fine mesh sieve. This is what they call in professional kitchens a chinois mousseline, or a china cap strainer. This is a very, very fine mesh sieve. This will take all of the particulate right out of the soup. And what we'll be left with, in this case, not our soup, our stock rather, but what we'll be left with is a beautifully clear and beautifully filtered and strained stock. So this will catch all of our seasonings, all of our herbs, and anything else that's going to get in there. So I'll just take a large ladle, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to strain this entire pot through my strainer, and this will catch absolutely everything from our herbs to our peppercorns to any bits of meat. Absolutely everything will get caught through. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to ladle this through my sieve, and I will see you in about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, we are done. So what we have here is about 8 quarts, or I'd say just under 8 liters of our homemade, this is turkey and chicken stock, roasted turkey and chicken stock, I should say. This is absolutely fantastic stuff. What I've put this into, this is a polycarbonate food safe container. When I was actually cooking this on the stove, this was left completely uncovered to just let the soup continue to reduce and just have that excess water content just completely evaporate off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to seal this up. I'm actually going to throw this outside for about a half hour just to get the really aggressive heat out of this stock, so I can put this into the fridge and let it cool down for a couple of days. We're going to use the weather to our advantage, and it's well below freezing, so I will put this outside covered just on our back patio table, and we're going to leave that out there for about half hour, maybe 45 minutes. Now, the reason why we make a good homemade stock, when we're making a soup that's got a number of different ingredients in there, you can easily use a stock that's not quite as good, and you may be able to get away with it. But when you're doing something like a broth or a stock with noodles, and noodles are really a blank canvas, and they start to pick up flavors from whatever they're cooked with, really the stock is the star of the show, and that's really where it shines. And I would happily put this in any bowl to serve to absolutely anyone. It really is that good, and I do hope you try this recipe. So what we'll do is we'll let this cool down. We'll put this in the fridge, like I said. We'll reconvene in about a couple days, and we will just defat this product so that we can store it long term. Now, the one thing I will say with this, people will say, it's a 4-hour thing, or in the case of beef stock, it might be a 6 or 7 hour thing. Stock is one of those things that takes care of itself. You put it on the stove, you just let it bubble away, and it takes care of itself. So there's lots of other things that you can be doing either around the house or just as far as getting other things done. And so this is the kind of thing that really takes care of itself. And then when it's done, it's the kind of thing that takes care of you. So I will see you in a couple of days as we look to get this completely ready for long-term storage. So I will see you when we get back. All right, we are back. It's been a couple of days. It's been a long week, just off the field looking for a quick dinner, and so we are gonna just skim the fat off of our beautiful turkey and chicken stock, and we are actually gonna have this for dinner tonight in one of the most classic preparations that there is. So I fished this out of the fridge. This is what it looks like. So we've got, as you can see here on the side, we've got our beautiful gelatinous broth, or stock I should say. Now if we've done this right, your stock will be beautifully gelatinous, and all we've done is we've taken all of the collagen, the connective tissue from all of the bones and the meat that we put in there from all of our turkey and chicken carcasses, and we've melted that down. And what we've created is a stock that's full of gelatin. And when it's cold, that gelatin will really cause it to firm up, and that really is a sign of a good stock. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take a simple large spoon here, and we're just going to go down across this fat layer, and we're just going to skim that right off. So as it solidifies, this fat will solidify into one layer, and then what we'll do is we'll simply skim that right off the top. So I'm just going to take some of this fat away, and then I will pop the camera in here so that you can see exactly what it looks like. But the beauty is the fat will congeal, it will solidify into one layer, and this way we can completely defat our stock and just be left with that beautiful gelatinous mixture underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and tilt this over a little bit. What we see is we've got the fat on the outside, and we've got this beautiful clear pool of stock. So we're just going to continue to kind of get in there and just skim this off the surface. Now in our case, we added a little bit of olive oil just to roast off those chicken and turkey bones, and so it's a little bit softer. The fat layer is a little bit softer than it otherwise would be if it was just chicken or turkey fat. If it was, it would solidify in a much harder layer, but that olive oil is kind of softening it up a bit. But not to worry, it still solidifies in one beautiful layer, and so we can take this right off the top, and this way what we have left is a beautifully clear, beautifully skimmed stock. There we are. Now if this was a liquid, this would be much more difficult to do, but because we've got a lot of gelatin in our stock, it really does hold up well and lift that fat right to the top, so we can just completely remove that. There we are. There we are. So what I do now is I will portion this off into 1 liter resealable freezer safe plastic containers, and that way I will have a whole collection of stock. This here is about, let's say, the better part of about 7.5 to 8 liters, so I should get 8 containers to put in my freezer. What I'm going to use tonight is about 1.5 liters of stock with 750 grams of beautiful fresh tortellini. This is meat stuffed tortellini pasta. It's a beautiful fresh pasta with a very flavorful filling of ground veal, mortadella, spices, Parmigiano cheese. Absolutely phenomenal quality product. Yes, I have made stuffed pasta before, and we've made tortellini for this application before. It is a little bit time consuming, and given that it is a little bit late into the evening and we do want to have a very quick dinner, this is really what the doctor ordered. And there's nothing wrong with a good quality purchased pasta, so that's what we're going to use tonight. So I will get this fully squared away, and then I will see you in a couple of minutes when we are ready to go to the bowl with our beautiful tortellini in brodo. All right, final step before we go to the plate. We've got our beautiful tortellini in our aggressively salted water. You've seen me do that countless times, and so our tortellini is ready to come out. It's been in our salted water for about 5 minutes or so, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish cooking it in our stock. Now this is, in my opinion, this is the ultimate expression of simplicity, and certainly of a good stock. A good stock should be able to stand on its own and not just complement another dish, whether by making gravy, by making different sauces. This is 2 components to the dish. We have our pasta, we have our stock. And so this is the real test. So we're just gonna get this in there, hopefully without splashing the counter too badly. There we are. All right. And now we're just gonna give this just a minute or so to come together. And this is the very definition of a quick, simple dinner. Our stock freezes beautifully, and so Always good to have a collection just waiting in the freezer for an opportunity to be used at a moment's notice. And we are there. We are there. So we're just gonna get, we'll get our bowl. We need our spoon. All right. And now we're just gonna cut the heat on this. The smell of this is absolutely fantastic. There we are. I've added nothing further to our stock. No salt, no seasonings. It was absolutely perfect as it was. No further seasonings required. And we're just gonna pull another couple of tortellini out of there. There we are. Now this is how it's done. Absolute simplicity. There are only two things needed from here on in. A nice piece of crusty bread, and as always, in my house, some beautiful, freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. And we're just gonna let that fall right in there like a little snow flurry. There we are. There we are. This was freshly grated off a big block using a microplane. And now we're gonna get right in there. First things first, let's try our stock. It needs nothing else. The depth, the richness of flavor, just that strength of meatiness. You taste the meat, you taste the vegetables, you taste the spices and seasonings, everything in harmony, everything in balance. Absolutely not a note out of chord. Absolutely fantastic. I do hope you try this. I do hope you try making your own stock at home. It's really, really easy, and the results are absolutely stellar. Do give it a try. As always, do like and subscribe. Post a comment if you like. Do share the content as it is meant to be shared. And this is Coach Joe saying I will see you on the next one.